The March 8th digital event had a lot of interesting Monster Hunter Rise information. I think they knocked it out of the park, especially considering there's another event tomorrow. Let's go over everything that caught my eye and talk about it. First of all, they announced the return of Zinogre and Nargacuga. These are two fan favorites, so I'm sure they'll be a welcome addition to Rise. One thing that I'm excited about though in particular is that they're being introduced as a part of the base game. In Monster Hunter World, these two didn't arrive until Iceborne, which I think kind of reduced their impact. By the time you get to them, you're not only likely to be super experienced from playing World, but you'll already have gone through a big chunk of Iceborne as well. I always kind of felt I wasn't getting an experience that accurately reflected how cool these two were supposed to be, and since World was my first game, I felt like I was missing out. By having them available earlier in Rise, before the hunter has all his endgame gear, they're more likely to give the player a challenge more consistent with their legacy. Next, let's talk about the switch skills. This is probably the most important part of this update. I don't think people are fully appreciating how much this is going to change the game. As you progress through the game, you'll unlock the ability to change parts of your weapon's moveset by switching them out with other attacks. Like here, you can take out the charged shelling and replace it with Blast Dash. Alright, this is huge. Even something simple, like being able to switch out one of your Wirebug moves, has huge effects. Take the Longsword for example. If I remember right, previous leaks confirmed that the Wirebug move the Longsword would be able to change was the Soaring Kick. Even by just switching out the Wirebug skill, you've already radically changed how the weapon is going to play. And if the leaks are to be believed, each weapon will have one Wirebug skill, and two non-Wirebug skills moves be switchable. This is so awesome. We're getting almost to Generation's Ultimate levels of customization. In some ways this is an even more customizable system, because in Gen U, when you switch hunter styles, you had to take every attack of that style wholesale. Whereas now you can have hunter movesets a la carte, mixing our movesets to our liking, or even switching them out depending on the monster we have to fight. It might even become optimal to have several different armor loadouts for the same weapon, depending on which skills you decided to take out for the hunt. This whole thing is amazing. I can't get over how cool it is. But moving on. The event went on to reiterate some of the stuff we already knew. They confirmed that there would be 5 locations in the game: the Shrine Ruin, Frost Islands, the Flooded Forest, the Sandy Plains, and the Lava Caverns. And they showed off some of the monsters they already announced. Not much to cover here, but I do want to talk a little bit about Almudron. Now, as far as I know, I was the first one to talk about how the monsters were likely to have attacks that gave hunters the opportunity to use their newfound verticality and Wirebug maneuverability, be it to avoid damage or put themselves into a position to deal it out. I was imagining something like attacks that cover large parts of the ground, like Mizuzune's new Water Beam attack, or something that encouraged you to climb to avoid. And in the last digital event they showed off Almudron making large mounds of earth that the hunter can climb on. Seeing it does make me more convinced that we are going to see more monsters moves that are designed for the Wirebug in obvious ways. Let's talk about the new Rampage details now. According to Ichinose, the Rampage ends when all the horns are repelled, or the final major threat has been vanquished. Major threats, along with apexes, are the monsters that lead the horde. Now before this event we still didn't know how the Rampage would work, but now the picture is much clearer, and it seems pretty interesting. Before the Rampage begins, you're given some time to place installations at specified points on the map. What's interesting is that you can choose what installations go where, and different installations have different limits on how many you can place. Here you can see mountable installations that have a limit of 8, while automatics have a limit of 5. The mountable we see is the Ballista, and the automatic is the Defender Ballista, which as you can see is automatic because it's manned by a villager. These guys aren't even hunters, they're sending normal people out here to the front lines. Now they only showed these 2 types of installations in the menu, but elsewhere you can see cannons and other type, like this cool laser beam thing. As you repel monsters, the stronghold will level up. which lets you access different types of installations. Which is good, because Rampages have what looks like secondary objectives, which will probably increase your rewards if completed, which should influence your decision on what installations you want to place. Anyway, when you are done preparing, you can ready up to skip the rest of the prep time and begin the Rampage. Like most Horde modes, you'll have progressively harder waves. As you can see, the monsters that appear have different symbols over their heads, which indicates their behavior. The Kezu has a broken gate symbol and seems to ignore the hunters, heading instead straight ahead. The Azeros have fangs as their symbols, probably indicating that they'll attack the nearest hunter. And the Aknasom has what looks like projectiles, which I think probably means it'll go after installations. After a certain time, the counter signal can be used. It'll go off automatically, but you can manually strike the gong to activate it by placing it as an installation. But either way, your hunter receives a large damage buff during the counterattack, indicating that you should get off your installations and attack in melee range. You can also get the most important villagers to help fight off the monsters. It looks like they work like a powerful installation. Minoto and Hinoa are one unit, and I don't think they can get off that platform. They're probably on a cooldown like a Dragonator, and will leave after fighting for a bit. One final thing to note is that the quest's objectives say repel the monsters, not slay them, which leads me to think you don't actually have to kill them. They'll probably leave when they take enough damage, which is good, because the Rampage looks really hectic, and carving monsters would probably ruin the pacing of the thing. The next important thing is the quests. The quests are divided into village quests, which are single player, and hub quests, which can be done single player with a group of up to 4. The difficulty will scale on the fly, depending on how many people are in the quest. The lobbies will have a maximum of 4 players, which I think is an excellent idea. Because, well, in Monster Hunter World you had this big 16-player lobby, but you almost never saw anyone. Nobody hung out in the gathering halls, nobody talked. I'm not sure why, but there was something very off-putting about interacting with other people. On the other hand, I went back and played Generations Ultimate, and I'm going through 4 Ultimate right now, and in both of those games, even though the lobby size is small, and there's no easy way to get on a voice chat with others or communicate, I still had more coordination, communication, and overall a more pleasant experience for my online interactions than most of my time in World. There's some weird magic that was lost in transitioning from those older games to World, and it looks to me like they're trying to bring it back in Rise. I'm not sure it will work, but I support the effort, because otherwise I'll spend most of the game playing solo again, which I would rather not do. I think Monster Hunter shines best when you play it with other people. Finally, the announcement that has me most excited is the fact that they're having another demo and adding Magna Malo for us to fight on March 11th. This is so awesome. I really like fighting the flagships on the demos. If you played the previous demo and are on the fence about buying Rise, or if your experience with the demo made you think you don't like it, I highly recommend you give it another chance in this following demo. The only reason I got into Monster Hunter was because I played the second demo in Monster Hunter World, where they let us fight Nergigante. Before that I had played the first demo and I was not interested in Monster Hunter at all. It was not until I got crushed by Nergigante over and over that I learned to like the series. I promise there is a significant percentage of people like me who will not like this game until they get splattered by the demo monsters. If that sounds like you, I am begging you to give it a shot. And that's it for this video. I'm not sure if I'll do another for tomorrow's update. It depends on whether the information released is sufficiently interesting. Regardless, as always, I hope you've enjoyed, and thank you for watching.